All right, welcome to the Trans Talk Hub podcast. I'm your host, Alyssa. Here we have Blaze,
Hi.
and then we have totally up to you, or we can circle back.
Introduce the guest? We'll circle back.
Okay. And then we have Aura.
Hello. My name is Aura, or Willow, or Acrylic is the full username. But yeah.
Welcome. Glad to have you on.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thanks for coming. So just a little note for listeners/viewers. You might notice the name change here. So from now on, we're going with Blaze. That is basically just for marketing purposes and linking up with my socials that our gracious host, Alyssa, has put in the descriptions for these episodes. So from now on, I'm Blaze.
Sounds good.
Absolutely. Welcome. All right. Well, today's episode is on trans voice. And, we're going to have some lessons from Aura here.
I thought you were going to give me the lesson.
I wished. I will, showcase some of my skills thanks to you and working with you. But I'm definitely not good enough to be a teacher as of yet. You definitely still have that role.
Okay.
But yeah, I kind of wanted to start off too, if you wouldn't mind, with me just asking you
Sure.
some questions.
Yeah, we can start
first,
right off the bat. Let's go.
If you just want to kind of talk about like what got you into wanting to do coaching and helping other trans people with their voices and things like that.
So, sure. I am trans. I am a little sick. I had a decreased duration of my operating system of existence. And so I thought once I learned how to do femme voice, I saw how much of the world was inaccessible prior and realized how important voice was for everybody. So now that I have gained enough, I believe enough information to teach others, we go do that. We go teach others, and we're going to do that until we're not here anymore.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's great. I think you're doing an amazing service and helping a lot of people out. I personally don't know what I would do if, if I didn't have this ability. Me and you have had conversations before where I thought surgery was the only choice. And, we've talked and went. You're totally fine.
I fed them earlier.
We've talked, and I used to be in the mind frame of thinking surgery was the only way, and you've helped kind of bring me out of that and realize that you do have the power to do this without that, and yeah, I think that's really important.
Absolutely. You were like, I'm gonna go get a voice surgery, and I said, why? I thought you were working on it. Like you were getting progress. What's the deal here? And you were just like, I want to get it, and I didn't let you go. I kept talking your ear off. So here you are. But yeah, I think voice should be taught. I mean, after you get the surgery, you have to learn it about anyway, and you're learning something that's translatable post surgery, because what you're learning is your ears, right? You'll be able to hear it. If you can be able to hear the difference between sizes, then that's great. I said sizes in a different voice just to make the point. Yeah, if you can hear the difference, you can start working on your voice after you get vocal surgery, but vocal surgery just kind of limits the range that you can actually speak at or sing at. It doesn't really, it prevents you from making mistakes. How about that? It prevents you from being able to dip in here like sometimes and go back up to your regular voice. That's not capable of happening because you're not capable of producing that pitch range anymore. And so they think, oh, look, it's helpful. Technically, I guess it's helpful, but it's like bumper cars on a car that's not going to hit anything. Like, yeah, maybe it could help, but it's not going to hit anything and you can drive, then why do you need the bumpers?
No, that's a really good point. I like that explanation of that. Absolutely. And I think that's kind of what helped me realize that I didn't, because yeah, you were right. I was going to go set up a consultation and do all this and surgery date and all of that. But yeah, I backed out because I realized I just need a little bit more time with this. I need to be patient, and I need to just put a little bit more effort in. And, after I started doing it and seeing it, I was like, whoa, okay. I can't believe I ever even thought of that. I'm nowhere near where I wouldn't say that. I'm pretty close to where I would like to be with my voice. And I think a lot of it's just dialing it in, consistency and things like that. But I did want to ask you a couple questions here as well.
Yeah,
That
sure.
I kind of already have on my other monitor here. But first, before I get into that, Blaze, did you have any questions in regards to voice that you want to ask before I get into these questions?
Oh, I mean, I have a ton of things, but
I will answer. Go.
let's wait until we get into the meat of it, because I have my own experience with this, and I
Okay.
also thought about the surgery too. I came close to like making a consultation as well, and what am I? Just to preface, like, my voice is probably the thing that bothers me the most about my transition, I guess you could
Okay.
say. I was able to do pretty much everything else I wanted to do, but the voice has been a struggle for me. So I'm hoping that you can help me out a little bit, Aura.
Yeah, I can. We can play with some things. We'll hear some voices. I'll make some funny noises, and then we'll get an understanding of where you want to go.
Okay.
Can you do me a favor and find a good model so I can hear it? Or tell me what your goals are, if it's just like cis passing or like just gendered femme or androgynous. I don't want anybody to know what I'm thinking.
I mean, so I feel like I'm kind of in the androgynous zone as it is right now.
Okay.
I'd like to sound more femme.
Okay. Just more femme in the femme direction. Yeah, sure. Drop
Yeah.
drop the weight, drop the size, and we'll see what it sounds like. Yeah. Yeah. Questions before we, I guess, start trying that stuff.
For sure. So I guess the first question that I have for you is, what do you feel like the most common challenges are when someone begins this? And I think
Size.
obviously you can speak to it because you've gone through it yourself.
Size. It's always size. Every time it's size. Hi, Aura, I would like some help and guidance. My voice sounds like this. I would like to sound like this. It's size. Every time. Maybe one instance, somebody was like, I want to sing. And then that wasn't size. That was a different problem. But like everybody, every single person. And I was like, all right, let's work on size. Maybe it's not the only thing that they had to work on. Maybe it's not. But the majority of what they need to do, the massive difficult thing that for years chorus people have been having difficulty teaching, is size. Resonance. Size. You get smaller with everything else from your previous voice. And generally speaking, like, it sounds so much more femme. They're like, I'm happy. This is amazing. I can't believe it. And then they go off and use it, hearing everybody else in their natural environment, and just fucking do all the rest of the shit. They do the weight. They do the fullness that accompanies the weight. They do the sprinkles on the voice, like I call it, which is just personality indicating features, which is like, oh my God, I can't believe her, Becky. Like, just like the crazy like accents and all the different things that you can add on top of physiological sound or physiological perception of your voice. And that all happens on its own because you learn that in the first place on your own. The only thing you didn't learn on your own is size. Maybe some guys like, get deeper, I want to talk down here. Yeah, like that's a size change technically. When guys hear that and they're like, oh shit, I need to sound more intimidating, I think they can increase their size because they're trying to imitate what a polar bear would like sound like, or not a chipmunk. I'll tell you that. They don't hear somebody coming and go, oh no, I'm gonna beat you up. No, they get larger in their size. And then people who are generally femme generally get smaller because they want to be cute. And so that generally tends to happen slightly on its own. But the physiological changes coming with puberty make the exaggeration so great, you have to overcome this great change that normally is way out of the 2 standard deviation range you're used to. Okay, but you still use your voice. You still swallow, it goes all the way up, goes all the way down when you yawn. And so you have the range of movement that you need. unless you have a swallowing issue, unless you have an issue when you yawn, or you have a sword through your throat. Like I don't want to hear the obvious exceptions to this, but you can move your larynx. You can move. Watch. Look, I didn't get any surgery. Watch. Swallow. Oh, yawn. And so that's how I show people movement. I show them, okay, you don't know how to get small? Hold on. Every voice teacher just cringed in their seat. I would never teach somebody to do swallow and hold method to get size change, but I absolutely tell them to yawn, and I yawn in front of them to get large size change. The reason you don't is because I forgot what I just said, but I'm sure it's because it introduces FEF constriction. And FEF constriction is something that can hurt you while you're practicing. And if you introduce it and you just like start practicing, you might end up in a femme voice, but it might sound like, you're strained and like really restricted because like you think getting smaller requires using all your muscles tightening into one little spot, but that's not the case. And when you do tighten all your muscles into one little spot, you're also taking the walls of your esophagus and just constricting it, trachea, and you're just restricting it into what is called constriction, FEF constriction, and it causes that noise. So size is the biggest change. Size is the biggest factor to answer that first question for a half hour. And the next biggest issue is FEF constriction while practicing and learning size. Everything else is easy.
No, I agree. I mean, having gone through the sessions already with you, I think for one, I think there's a big misconception for a lot of people with pitch. Everybody thinks it's all pitch. All of it's pitch, and it's just not.
Yeah, it's not.
And it literally is size. And the first time you showed me the fluctuation of big and small sizing, I was like, oh my God, that is what it is. It's not pitch. I mean, pitch may play a factor, but it's not the main thing you want to think about. Size is the main thing you want to think about.
Yep.
So I also want to ask you, because that kind of brings to the second question here, just like overall with voice training and things like that. So how do you approach the balance between achieving a natural feminine voice and maintaining vocal health?
Vocal health, as far as I know, is affected only when you introduce FEF constriction. I do not believe there is anything else that trans people teach, that trans voice lessons will teach you that will hurt your voice. I don't think there's any other dangers. I think, and I'm pretty sure the only real danger is like dehydration from use, that initial weird soreness when you first land that cis voice and you're just like not stop using it. Maybe the first week you're getting a little like, oh shit, I feel weird. It's because you're kind of essentially swallowing for like a year at once. And your body gets used to it, but it goes away. Other than that, nothing. There should be no other problems.
No, that makes sense. Honestly, I think I told you yesterday, I'm not going to like say where I work for the podcast, but
right.
Regardless, my job literally contains me speaking for 8 hours. So now, as of right now, I've just been using neutral voice for the most part, unless I take something like a supervisor call or something like that. Well, yesterday I took a call, and like I discussed with you, I was doing pretty well. It was about an hour-long supervisor call. I would say about 20, 30 minutes in, I got this weird, it's almost like I was choked up on something, and I was like freaking out because I was like, oh my God, I actually have to speak now. But my throat's like, wait a minute, you can't yet. And so I had to like figure out what's going on. I think what I did was I must have constricted something, and that's what caused that. And then I relaxed a little bit and swallowed, and it fixed.
Yeah. I don't know what happened there. It could have just been like a lump in your throat, like you got nervous about something, or maybe you forgot to breathe for a second. And you're just like, I ran out of air, but you didn't recognize the sensation.
I think so. It could have been that. Maybe it was a mix of that, and I don't know. Maybe I got constricted. I don't know. I feel like when I do it,
it would get to that point. That would like. You can force it. You can play with constriction. I tell everybody to actually play with all of the qualities, like max out every quality. Do some constriction to your voice. It's not going to be any different from when you called up your old boss, years ago, and you're like, oh, I'm too sick. I'm not able to make it into work today. I'm too sick. It's literally the same thing. You're just intentionally doing it in that case. And then when people introduce it in their voice, they're doing it for a long time. That's when the injury starts to come out.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't that then. I think honestly, maybe it was like you said, because I think I maybe did forget to breathe. Honestly, now that I think about it, because I was like running like
was a
million
guess.
miles an
I don't know.
hour of thinking what I was about to just tell this guy, and I think I got a little ahead of myself, honestly, and that's probably what caused it. But it's nice to know like the different things to recognize through the process, like when you're speaking and you're going through this process, the things that kind of look out for in regards to all that. Let's see here. I had a couple other questions here before we get onto the actual sort of process of things. I don't know if you would have, but I guess it's just something that's, something to talk about. So as a coach, like you're working with people day in and day out through this process. What's some advice that you could give to someone who may feel discouraged about the time and the effort that it takes to do this process?
I got lots of things to say people like that. Number one, I can show you people that learned it in 15 minutes, right? I can show you it with the right instructions. As long as you are understanding what the teacher is trying to teach you, you can learn it real quick in the first try. It's easy. Don't let size discourage you. If you need a break from being able to do size, go do a different quality, learn that quality in mask voice or neutral voice or whatever, and just be like, I learned something, I made some progress. Because you will want to visit that, possibly. Maybe you want some kind of extra fry on your voice, or you want to be really breathy. You can do whatever you want to do, and you can add it later. There's sprinkles. It's not, when you like add a bunch of things at the beginning of an equation, and then you can, multiply a bunch of things, and then you add things later sometimes, because it's like multiplication first, addition later. That's the way things have. Size is first with voice, and then all the sprinkles go on top of it. But like, you can do mask voice and then sprinkles. You can do neutral voice and then sprinkles. It's not going to change your total training time. And if that's what you need, a mental break from the difficulty of being on a plateau, then go learn a different quality for a bit and come back. But size change should be not the most incredibly difficult thing to understand. You constantly change where your larynx is in your daily routines. If you ever have swallowed food, you have gotten a raised larynx at some point. If you ever have yawned, you have lowered your larynx. Now, if you pay attention to what it feels like, proprioception of these things that you're moving around in your throat and your head and your face, and you just try to just stay aware. Oh, as you mockingly yawn something, and then you go back to regular, then you mock the yawn, and then you go back to regular. It's sort of, I don't know if anybody is familiar with memory editing or cheating in a video game where you change the value of a number and you get used to it and you train it, what it is, back and forth, back and forth. That's what you're kind of doing here. You're kind of learning the neutral, and then you're learning the large, and you're learning the neutral, and you're learning the large. And you are cheat engine trying to learn where that movement is, that pointer, that value, whatever, and you want to change that value later, but you need to know where it is first. And so that's what you're looking for. You're looking for that connection, that understanding. And maybe frustration isn't the best way to learn it. So if you're frustrated and you're on hour 5, then like walk away. You know how sometimes you take a break and you come back and things are easier? Same shit with voice. Just walk away, come back. And if you really, really, really need to learn it, there's different ways. There's different techniques. You can imitate a dolphin or a door, and you can get a small voice immediately. If you can imitate somebody doing fem voice, you can speak in with the small voice. Hello, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can you repeat that? Perfect. You're done. You might not know what you did, but now you have this sound that came out of you, and you know that it came out of you, and you just recorded it. So you could play it back and listen to what it sounds like and just repeat it. And so once you kind of have what a semblance of a cis passing fem voice or whatever passing voice that you want, you have it recorded. It's kind of a save state. You could just go back to it. I just went on a rant, I'm pretty sure.
You are a teacher. You are the knowledgeable teacher. This is what you're here for.
Okay. I'm supposed to go on rants? Okay.
We are
Here we
here
go.
for your TED Talk.
Please pull me back.
No, that's great. No, I'm glad you got into a lot of that. And then, yeah, I mean,
It's the tea. It's the tea.
You got to cut back.
Yeah, no, I love this. I think that's kind of what I wanted for this too. I wanted people to see like every angle that you could see. A lot of these, obviously, I think they should, if anyone's, interested in having these sessions, of course, I'll have all the social links to Aura so you can reach out to her if she's,
Oh, and I'm doing it free. I don't know if that was mentioned earlier. I don't know if I said it was earlier. I'm doing it free.
Which
free,
is
free.
absolutely amazing, Aura. Like, seriously, I know so many people. I know you're only one person.
Yeah.
But I know so many trans femmes and trans masks who have been working on their voice, and they just don't really have like.
I know there's
someone
a
like
financial
this.
barrier
Or,
of
like,
entry.
there
Or
are
just
some-
finding the right teachers.
Yeah, and there are some like there's professionals out there. Like I went to a therapist for a little while, but it was only covered by insurance for 3 months, so that's all I got. And then there's other people like you out there who charge quite a bit of money for a lesson, and insurance isn't involved at all if you're even lucky enough to have insurance.
Yeah.
So this is an amazing thing you're providing.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely. I have to second that because honestly, I have to say I probably would have ended down the route of surgery if I wouldn't have found you and had that, because a lot of the same reasons, right? The pricing, the insurance, a lot of that stuff. And sure, I'd have had to go through the hurdles with insurance for surgery stuff, but I'd have thought, well, that's my only option, because I either pay a lot of this money and I go to this session and I have no idea how it's going to go. What if I get super nervous and I spend all this money and I can't even, like nervousness takes over and I can't do anything. And then I spend all this money into a session where I can't get anything out of it. And that wasn't how our first session went. I was a little reserved, but I think by the end I still gave it a shot with the sizing, and I had a good understanding of what sizing was. And from there, I haven't lost what sizing is. I'm more focusing on the other stuff, like you said, like the little sprinkles and things like that. I think
the little personality indicating features.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at currently. And Blaze, if I was to say anything to you, did you say you have had a session?
So I went once weekly for an hour for 3 months, with a trained vocal. Like, this is what she does.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say there was a change. There was a change in the direction that I wanted to go in. This is definitely not how I sounded before. So I can say there was a positive move. I'm just not where I want to be.
All right.
Yeah, I honestly think, and I would hype Aura up a lot here, because for me, I have seen a change and there was no change. Like, I couldn't envision, because before, and I know, Aura, you're probably gonna agree with me here. There was a moment where I thought I wasn't gonna get anywhere near where I wanted to go. I always had, quote unquote, what I thought was just gay voice. I'm like, oh, well, I'm trying it, but it just sounds like quote unquote gay voice, like this higher, sure, it's feminine, but it still sounds like a man at the end of the day. I want to sound like a woman, I want to sound and resemble that of a cis woman. And so, I think for me, it was just really working through it all, because there was definitely moments where, I would do like recordings and then I would listen back and I'd be like, that's not it. And then I would get frustrated, and then I'm like, you know what? Let me step away. Like you said earlier, let me step away from it. Let me collect myself, and then let me come back later to it and then see. And generally, what I notice is that if I'm going through a moment where I'm frustrated recording these audio clips and I'm not happy with it, and I circle back to it, I'm generally calmer. I've already generally listened to a few of them and kind of know what the issues were with it and what to work on. And I think that, kind of helps. And I think that's what keeps my drive going. is just knowing like, hey, it might not be where I want it right now, but I'm definitely better than I was a month ago, So,
Progress.
yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Any kind of progress is always a good feeling. And then a lot of learning femme voice comes after you are comfortable. A big hurdle I forgot to mention before learning size was to let yourself be able to make silly noises. I don't know if anybody remembers how hard that was at the start. It was fucking hard.
That was really hard, especially in front of like a new person. Like if you're working with someone or just your friend, like if you're
Yeah.
just practicing with someone and just all of a sudden going from, your old, much deeper voice all the way up to this, like,
Yeah,
it, it,
exactly.
it can feel weird because even though you want that, it's not what you're used to. Something that I wanted to just say for the viewers, especially for the our cis friends out there, our cis allies out there. Um, this is a question I got from a cis friend, when I started transition. They asked, and I was a few months in, and they're like, "So when is your voice going to get higher?" And I was just like, "What do you mean?" And they're like, "Well, with HRT, your voice gets higher, right?" I'm like, "Oh no, honey, no, that is not how it works for trans femmes. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can really do about that. If you're a trans mask, some people find it easier to go lower at that point with testosterone, but with estrogen, it's you're climbing the ladder rather than coming down off the ladder." And they were like, "Oh, I had no idea. So what are you going to do?" And I'm like, "I don't know. We'll figure it out." So when you're interacting with a trans person, especially a trans femme, and you notice their voice, like myself, is a little deeper than you might expect, like, keep in mind,
I don't want to say deeper. I would like you to already start saying larger, not
larger,
deeper. That's
larger,
already a psychological thing that'll help you.
larger. Okay.
Yeah, because you want
Um,
smaller, not higher pitched.
right. So just keep that in mind when you're interacting with a
Yeah.
trans person. Um, that voice is one of those things that we don't have a magic pill for. It's not part of HRT. It is literally something that we have to train in order to do. There are surgeries now, but they are invasive and expensive, and sometimes don't give you the results you want. So just keep that in mind.
Absolutely. No, I think that's something good to mention. And like, yeah, I mean, we had what Braxton on the last podcast, and one thing I remember talking to him about is he was saying he did no training, but he's also a trans man, so for them they
Yeah,
typically
they
don't
don't
need
gotta.
training. The testosterone does all of it. It's amazing. It's
Couple of
unfortunately
them.
we get the bad end of the stick on the trans end, but hey, that's what we have Aura for here today.
Listen, I got a couple of trans guys coming to me asking how to make their voices deeper, and I kind of just, I'm like, yawn and talk. Like, that's a sin. Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, it's never good. Back out in the.
You got to stop talking about yawning because I keep yawning.
Sorry. Yeah, so that's another reason why I use it. It's mirror neuronal, so you'll copy me. You don't really have much to say.
Yeah, because where I want to stay is like in the middle of the yawn, so to speak, or sorry, the end of the yawn,
The on?
the yawn,
The yawn. Okay, no.
yawn.
Yawns are for trans mask. That's where you want to
Oh,
go. Yeah, but if you want to learn how to get smaller, you can yawn to do a large voice. Hello, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then like stage one would be large voice, then neutral voice, large voice, then neutral voice, large, neutral, large, and you don't have to do it that fast back and forth, but you're doing an immediate change back and forth, right? And then the next stage of difficulty is large voice, but then we take it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you gradually get to neutral voice. And then once you get to neutral voice, if you realized how you controlled that knob slowly, because it's not a discrete, immediate change into relaxing now. We're doing the Tower of Terror shit where the elevator's not going to fall fast enough on its own. We got to pull it. So we're pulling it. We have control because we're moving it slowly. We're not just relaxing a little bit at a time. We're fully moving it.
It's not digital, it's analog.
Oh, look, I know how to do that. You know what I mean? And then I changed pitch there as well, just to point prove, but that's basically what you do. You just get used to talking in a large voice, then you moving it slowly into neutral. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then you're just up here. I lowered my weight once I got here to maintain the fullness, which is just something that you do when you decrease size. And it's unconscious now. I have to consciously decouple it if I would like to.
Now, when you say size, could another name for that be resonance?
Resonance, yes. That's the choral version of the size. And size
it smaller.
Yeah, but not this. This isn't what's happening in us. This is what's happening. We're taking a cylinder of this size and we're taking the larynx and moving the larynx up here so the cylinder is only this big now. That's the size change we're getting. The volumetric air of here. And then we're removing this part of the lungs from the voice generation because it's echoing down there and it's just going that way, and it just muffles and provides the additional sounds of the voice. But for the most part, what we hear is that first R1 resonance chamber, which is change size with larynx. Sorry.
So almost like the low notes on a pipe organ, those are very large pipes.
Yep.
Whereas the high pipes are much smaller.
Yep.
Lengthwise and widthwise.
Yeah, I don't know much about a pipe organ or why the pipes are a certain size, but I'm assuming a larger pipe would make a larger sound and a smaller pipe would produce a smaller sound. What we're discussing now is resonance, and pipe organs definitely have notes. And so the different pipes could be notes. Maybe the length of the pipe is the
If there's a reed and there's a reed and then the resonance chamber, Sorry,
I don't know pipe organs. I'm sorry. No, I know music. I never thought about pipe organs.
Well, I think about them all the time.
I mean, you're more than welcome to.
No, I think that's, definitely something that I had to really figure out in the very beginning was sizing. And I think weight, obviously, I think that's what we talked about kind of second once I kind of figured out what sizing was. And then we talked about weight and, that's, kind of how we got into the sprinkle side of things. So I guess, I've kind of asked the questions that I already had like pre-configured. If I have any throughout, of course I'll ask you, but I guess just to show the audience where I'm at, right? What I can do. That's what probably a lot of people from the last episode were waiting to hear. I built a little bit of suspense up. I might have built up a little bit too much suspense, because I don't know. We'll see.
No,
we'll let the audience
voice changing is cool.
The judge of it. But you talk about big sizing, right? You talk about like you said, do a yawn. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. I'm back to neutral.
And that. So can we count up instead? Can we go?
I mean, I guess
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can we do that? Did we go? Did we go from a yawn to a neutral voice? Oh, yawn. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, please.
She's gonna be super tired by the end of this.
Yeah, please, just follow along as well.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm back to what I normally.
You're back to neutral, and then 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, I went where I wanted to be on 6. So we're gonna be real honest and say I fucked up. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10. Sorry, I had a little spit back there and it was being ignored. And so it caused a problem.
So I'll fully admit that I'm not I know this is probably something that listeners or people who are going through voice training are having have a hard time with, is like, I'm not comfortable enough to go that low because
Low.
I've avoided, sorry, large.
Oh, for the size?
Yeah, I'm like, I've avoided that for so long that I'm like, I
Okay.
never
But
want
maybe
to
we're
go back to
paralyzing the
that
muscle we
space.
want to use.
I know. Oh, I'm trusting you. I'm not saying you're wrong.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm just saying, like, as someone who's been in this and is in it,
So yeah, I know.
like
People are usually hesitant.
I'm
I get
hesitant
it.
because I have not heard my old tone in a long, long time.
I mean, you don't necessarily have to explore it. If you want to start from where you are and go to neutral and then go back to where you are, I think you can learn the same technique. Is you have some size change. What you probably want to do is be able to explore it even further to see
Yeah,
if you can change things further.
I know, and I know. I mean, I don't know if what the word is. I call it code switching, which is a different term from a different demographic, where, like, when I'm talking here, I feel pretty comfortable here because we've all been through this. So my neutral
Yeah.
voice, what you're hearing now, I'm comfortable with, and I feel like most of the people out there, like, I'm comfortable with that too. When I'm talking to new people, then I really like try and switch it up, like trying to
Oh,
bring up the
yeah.
resonance quite a bit.
Oh, absolutely. We
Just
put
to
on our customer service voice every time we buy apples and
exactly.
bananas. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, I would love those back. Thank you very much.
Thank you for calling the service desk. This is
Yeah,
Elle. How can I help you?
exactly. Just putting on our best face.
That's what helped me. For me, because we did our sessions, right? I didn't actually use it like in a public setting until I started going through like drive-throughs and things like that. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give it a shot. So I would order. So for me, I would go, hello, hi, can I get a number one pickles, mayonnaise, lettuce, tomato? Let's see, I'll take a side of okra and then a large Dr. Pepper. Yeah,
Okay.
that'll be all. Thank you.
So, Blades,
Yeah.
what do you think? What do you think?
It's great.
Because I am the teacher.
It's
I can't say
great.
it.
Well, okay, so now I'm like, okay, like, I've seen what you can do. And you also talked yourself up a little bit earlier as well. You said 15
Me?
minute 50. Yeah. You said
Oh,
50.
that wasn't me talking myself up. That was me giving you the statistics.
Oh no, I meant when you
I know.
said you can learn it in
I know.
15 minutes.
I know. Yeah, that was my statistics.
Oh. These are
Do you
facts.
want to see
Okay.
the speedrunner video that was 15 minutes? Yeah. Mon, a lot of the time it was 20 minutes, to be completely honest, between plus or minus 5 minutes, probably off 20. I didn't really
Wow.
care. The point wasn't to do it
No.
as fast as possible. The point was to just do it.
I
But
just
I ended up finding out that I could just take another patient in 20 minutes. So I started telling people 20 minutes and it was working out.
wow. That is wild.
I mean,
Cuz I like I said, I went for 3
Yeah, not
months.
everybody, but like a good number of them.
Right, not everyone, not especially not someone who's not open into going into the lower registers and doing what you
Right.
say.
Yeah, you have to get comfortable with some stuff.
I am a defiant pupil. What can I say?
well, I think that's something important to kind of like go in on as well, just because I think that's what it is for a lot of people, right? With voice training, there's like a mental block somewhere, or like what you're talking about, right? Like um, being so used to not using like a larger size to where you don't want to hear it because for you it's like kind of like a mental thing, like, oh, because like for me, like, yeah, I definitely would. I mean, I guess I'm kind of doing it. I mean, people are gonna run this back and hear me doing it at some point, right? But like, I would never definitely want to go out there in public and just be like, hey, how's everyone doing today? Of course not. Absolutely. So I get the uncomfortability, because I think at some point I think I was there too, but I think I don't know. I think everyone has their different paces, and I think it's important for people to know that. Now, I do think like sizing for sure. Like I don't know, how long did we meet the first time? It had to have been around that amount of time, 20, 30 minutes, and you were like sizing,
Yeah.
Patrick Star, large size, and you replicated it, and you were like, this is how you do it, and then it's like, small, very
I think
tiny.
I
Oh
was
my
even
god!
manic when I was.
To like, yeah. I mean, I think at least that part definitely was easy to capture, at least for me, in 20, 30 minutes. And then I think
Yeah,
the other
and then
ones, kind of roughly around the same, but a little bit more effort outside of the session to just kind of
mhm,
dial it in. But to have a good understanding of what it is, I definitely think it was good to have within that amount of time.
I understand what you're saying. So what I was saying was a lot of people had 100% femme gendered voices in 20 minutes, not cis passing voices. Some, but I was almost promising like gendered femme 100% of the time, in 20 minutes.
I think I could
But I
say
feel like, yeah,
I think I could say
size change.
gendered femme for sure. Like after knowing
Yeah, that
sizing.
was
Yeah,
that was 100% the first promise. 100%.
yeah, and I think I got that. But that's where I was hearing like, oh, this just sounds like a gay man's voice. You know what I mean? That's what I was hearing. I'd like size,
Yeah.
even me doing the sizing. That's what I heard. That's when I would listen
All
back to
right.
it. That's what I
What
would
did
hear.
I tell you? What did I tell you as a student? Putting you on the spot. If it sounds like a gay man's voice, what do you do? Lower the weight.
Weight, yeah, that's when we get into weight. Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
remember that, and yeah, I mean, that has to have been what I had figured out because like now, I'm able to just kind of go into it, like it might not always be perfect, and that's fine. I think a lot of it is consistency and things like that. But from talking here to immediately like going right into a conversation talking to you like this, I really I don't personally feel like I'm straining. I mean, I don't know, maybe you hear constriction, I don't know, but for me, I don't feel like I'm constricting anything. Like I don't feel any pulling. I don't really feel
No, I don't
anything.
hear it.
And then like when I go back here,
Because if
it's
I heard it, I would yell at you.
yeah, but I don't feel like any constriction. I just think like in my mind it's like, okay, get smaller. That's literally all I think about from here to,
Yeah.
oh my god, like really, really like small, very tiny.
I just wanted to touch on the gay man voice again. So, like we were saying, if you have a gay man's voice, you just lower the weight a little bit. So I'll use, I don't know, let's pick
Ben Shapiro. So we just lower his weight a little bit after we raise up the pitch, because, do, re, mi, right there. And then we just lower the weight until we got to a voice that we like. And then that's just Ben Shapiro's femme voice.
Yeah, no,
Crazy, right?
oh, for sure. No, I definitely. I see Blaze is like a little confused over, but I mean, I definitely I get it. I think I think hopefully at least the listeners hearing this do see that there's for one, this isn't like the certain sections can be easy to grasp in a 20, 30 minute session, but I would say for most, because for me, like I didn't have it all dialed in 20, 30 minutes, but I had these sections figured out and understandable in 20, 30 minutes per section. And then it was just, okay, let me just practice these. And then yeah, that's pretty much what it was for me. Do you have, I guess, from sizing to weight to because I think there was there's a lot of qualities, right? You talked about there's a bunch of them that you could
I
add
don't
to
know
your.
how many qualities there are.
Yeah, there's
I mean, when I decided to start being a voice teacher, I was like, all right, let's start teaching people. What can I help the most with? This thing. Everyone has trouble with this thing. And so I've been working on that thing mostly. And then I say, all right, good. How do you like it? And you're like, I'm so happy. And I'm just like, all right, cool. You'll come back in like 2 weeks when you just like get bored, want to add sprinkles. And then so like people come back and then I start telling them fry breathy. There's a list somewhere. I'm not going to be able to list them all on spot, but yeah, if somebody comes to me like I want to do this, find somebody that sounds like that and mimic them. Like that's you're at that stage at that point. You already did the size change. Everything else is something that you can usually mimic. And then you have Natasha Leone. For some reason I can't sound like her. Like just her voice, so amazing. Can't sound like her. I would love to. Just can't. for whatever reason.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I was at there for a while. Trying to figure out like the intricacies of voice, and what could I add to it to give it like a different quality. Because there for a bit, like, I mean, like, now for me, I feel pretty comfortable using the fem voice that I've been able to attain now. Um, but for me, I still listen to it from time to time, and I'm like, okay, what could I sprinkle in there? What could I add now? I tried Fry before. Fry wasn't it. Fry definitely didn't really help me, so I quit doing that. I don't know. Like, I would say I'm fairly happy with where I'm at. I think for me, it's really honestly what it's going to boil down is consistency, because like I said, I literally talk for my whole job, 8 hours a day. So I think consistency is a big thing, and I definitely know that I lose it from time to time. I'm probably going to mention supervisor calls a lot, because that's generally when I start to use my fem voice. But I just the other day I got misgendered on the call. She said, "Oh, by the way, sir," and I'm like, "Shit, okay, my voice must have went somewhere. Like, I'm thinking it's okay, but it must not be, or maybe who knows." But in that moment, I'm like, okay, consistency. So some people might have been completely like blindsided by that and be like, oh my god, I'm not where I want to be. They like, I could easily went into a depression because of it. Like, oh my god, I've been doing all this training, and then I go on this call, and then I get misgendered. I'm nowhere where I thought I was, right? But I didn't do that. Because there is calls that I have, and like the one that I had the last time with the guy, he definitely. I don't think that guy knew whatsoever that I was, doing a voice for the call, because really that's what I was doing, because I was using neutral voice before the call, and so I think I at least, you know, I, I don't like to say selling a voice, right? But for that call, that's what I was
I know what you
doing,
mean.
because I knew as soon as that call was done, I was going to go back to neutral voice. So for those, I do the little practice things, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, before I take that call. And I kind of give myself a little pep talk. I maybe step away, get some water, something like that. But I think it's important for, I don't know. I think if you're listening to the podcast or watching it or whatever you're doing, I think give it a shot. Book a lesson. Don't book. I guess you're not really paying anything if you're going with Aura. So I don't want to say book, but schedule. Look into scheduling. I think a lot of people would really benefit from, or I don't know, even from listening to this podcast. Try some of the things that have been, I mean, you went over sizing really well, like from large to
There's
neutral to small. I think.
who is this podcast aimed at? Is it aimed at the people at the beginning, the middle, the end? Like, once you get once you get a voice that you're so happy with, cis passing, everything's perfect with it, you'll start to feel like different things. You'll start to feel like an outsider. Maybe you won't. I felt like I was, once I landed a voice and I was like using it in public, I felt a little uncomfortable at first. I was like, huh, I feel like I shouldn't be doing this. Like, it almost felt wrong, and it felt like I was mocking a cis woman. It was perfect. It sounded good to me, and then because of that, I was like, now it sounds like I'm making fun of people. It sounds too on. It sounds too on the nose, and like, so there's like a stage of like everything going through your head at different. Sorry, there's different things going through your head at different stages. I don't know. I warn everybody about the different things that I went through, that I hear that other people have gone through, just like psychologically, and I've mentioned them, but they're interesting, and I don't remember them all. I'll remember them as I'm talking to the student, where they'll go, "Yeah, this is what I did, and I did this for this," and I'm just like, "Oh shit, that's that. I remember doing that. That's something I went through." It's pretty cool.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
something that I I went through, still go through, if I'm like I said, in front of strangers and like really, really trying to hit that femme voice, that I earlier on mostly still sometimes happens. I do worry like, oh, I'm just doing an impression, which
Yep.
feels disingenuous,
Yeah, exactly.
which is a weird thing because you're just trying to be yourself.
Yeah, like you're aware of that. So like what's going on? And it's just new. It's novel. And thankfully that feeling goes away.
Yeah.
For sure, absolutely. No, I kind of feel that way a lot of the times, especially like early on. I felt a lot of that because I had a lot of people that were, because I thought maybe I was unintentionally doing like an impression or something like that, because like when I go to a femme voice, I don't, maybe Blaze, you could tell me your thoughts on it, but typically when I go to that femme voice, a lot of people say like, you sound very California, like very California girl, and so for me, I'm like, wow, okay, so like you think I'm putting on a voice? Because some people are like, well, what, like, you're from Texas, what? But you definitely don't sound like you're from Texas. Well, I don't, like, for me, I don't like, even neutral voice. I don't sound like what I would imagine. Well, I live in Texas, right? So I know what the stereotypical Texas voice sounds like. I'm nowhere near that with my neutral voice. Nowhere. At least to me, I feel like I'm nowhere near that. Unless you want to say like I'm like a city version of it. I don't know. But like regardless, I thought like, am I subconsciously doing, I guess, this impression of California woman voice or Valley girl or however
Yeah.
you want to call it? And I'm just lowering my size, and for some reason that's the voice that comes out. I'm not trying to sound that way. I'm not trying to emulate that. I'm just lowering my size, and that's the voice that comes out.
I don't think there's anything wrong with emulating it. Fake it till you make it. When I teach people things, I exaggerate it because when you exaggerate it in practice, you don't exaggerate it in reality. And when you go to use it, you want to think this, and I understand that quality easily because I exaggerated it, and then you just go to do it, and it's a less exaggerated version, which ends up being perfect.
For sure,
And I
yeah.
think there's probably like some interesting, just like depending on where we grew up, like there's
Mm-hmm.
different things we kind of absorb, like California, or like, maybe you get a little bit like Valley Girl in there, or hell, maybe someone from the Northeast develops a little bit of a Southern twang when they do theirs. Like, you're searching for your new voice, so hey, explore.
For sure, absolutely. I think that's something that I've had to like recognize, and kind of get over, in regards to that, because you know I am not. I'm under the realization that I'm not doing like a, I don't know, a mockery or anything of that voice. Um, and I explained to people because they asked me, right, like, are you trying to do that? No, I'm lowering my size, and that's what comes out. And now I'm okay with it. And so I think that's kind of like a really important thing to realize, because who knows, maybe somebody else is in that position, right? They hear this, right, and they go to do um, the size changing, and maybe they get in the same position. They're like, oh wow, I'm getting that same thing that Alyssa was talking about. People are telling me I'm sounding like Valley Girl ish with my voice. You I mean, maybe for somebody, maybe they're unintentionally emulating it, but for other people, I think it can, I guess, be common to just naturally have that be a thing. But yeah, what do you think, Blaze? Do you think mine is kind of around that, or what's your thoughts?
A Valley Girl? No, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say Valley Girl, but that's inflection. A lot of that's kind of like the ups and downs of, I
Yeah.
remember when I had my vocal training, that like one of the things that I didn't even think about beforehand, it's only something I learned by going, is men have a different, I guess, intonation or different iambic pentameter to how they speak. It's a lot of ups and downs, and when women tend to, not always, but tend to go up at the end of a sentence, like they're asking a question, and I was just like, well, to me that sounds like I'm making myself kind of sound dumb. But like the fact of the matter is, that's just a commonly observed feature of feminine speech. And I kind of had to get used to it. And sometimes I can remember it and sometimes I can't.
That's fair. You might not want to do it.
No.
And you don't have to. This is one of those things where I said it's a sprinkle, because the majority of us get gendered right and are happy just based on physiological, what are they called? Body indicating features of the voice. Physiologically indicating features. Yeah, body indicating features of the voice: size, weight, the fullness, which is just combination of size and weight, and I don't know, the other stuff. I just never found that important. Sing-songy of the voice, like hello, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The birch canoe slid on the smooth planks, and then like when I'm doing it for a student, I do exaggerate it, ridiculous like that, like the rice, and then the student goes and they go the rice, and it's like it's you ever play a game telephone? It's off by one. I do an exaggerated version of sing-songiness, and the student will do a less exaggerated version of the sing-songiness from them trying to like mock me or mimic me, not mock me, mimic me. And that's I don't know. You bring me a voice that has a quality and I hear it, I'm going to try to teach you the quality. But for the most part, it's just there's sprinkles on the cake. It really is.
For sure, absolutely. Yeah, I think for me, kind of where I'm at, I'm just gonna really keep what I have. I'm just gonna dial it in, keep consistency. I will say, you know, following this podcast, every podcast will be in my fem voice. I will not use neutral voice moving forward, because and I've this is more than just the podcast. Even at my job, I've told them like, hey, this next week, don't expect my neutral voice, because I am not going to get better unless I force myself to use that voice in every scenario I'm in. Doesn't matter if I'm, we all do it, right? Talking to ourselves, singing, whatever I'm doing, not using neutral voice, because I feel like for me, the more I use it, the more I wouldn't say comfortable, because I'm definitely not comfortable with my neutral voice, but I would say, I guess in a sense, there's some comfortability, right? You speak, and that's currently what happens. It's very easy to get caught up in that and to say like, oh well, I think there's also like a social dynamic too, right? Like for me, I was a little bit, um, it feels, or it felt in my mind like, oh, it's going to be fake, right? I'm now going to be talking to my friends and my family in this voice. They clearly know it's not my voice. But it will be eventually. The only
It
thing
is your voice.
it is my voice, but it'll
You didn't get
eventually
it by
become,
copying somebody else.
yeah,
That's your voice.
for sure. And I think that's something that I've had to realize through all this time, is that, yeah, don't be nervous about, starting. Once you get to that point, you've recognized what sizing is, you've recognized weight, all those different characteristics. The easiest thing to do is just use it everywhere, and that's kind of where I'm at, and that's what I'm going to do. So, the next podcast, this next Sunday, um, you will not hear this voice. And so, to kind of close everything off, I'm gonna go right into it. So, yeah. So, let's just keep this going from here on out, and we'll see what happens. If there's issues, sure, we'll dial it in, and yeah, that's what it is.
Wonderful.
Nice.
I'm so happy to hear that.
Thank you. But yeah, absolutely. So, I guess we're kind of at the point where, we've kind of really just went through all the things that we can, at least for now. Of course, if you
Yeah,
want
this
to
is a
book a
good
session
start.
or schedule a session rather, with Aura, definitely, utilize the links that'll be in the description. I'll speak with her about some resources and things like that might could be good viewing and things like that as well. But yeah, thank you for listening to the podcast, watching it. Don't know which version you're doing, but really appreciate you tuning in. And yeah, we'll be live. Well, I don't know about live, but we'll be recording the next session next Sunday. So definitely tune in for that. Not sure what topic it's going to be. I'm going to leave it kind of to a surprise here. But yeah, thank you, Ara, for coming on. Blaze, thank you again for being so consistent with the podcast and coming on. Hopefully, even you enjoyed this one, and continue to
I
enjoy them
did.
as we progress through the first season of the podcast.
I thank you very much for the opportunity to speak on your podcast. It was a lot of fun.
I have one last thing, Aura.
What's up?
Can I have a lesson?
Now?
No,
Live?
no. I can schedule. I
Fuck
can
it, we'll do it
schedule.
live. I'm just kidding.
I don't think we have time, unfortunately.
Yes, of course, yes. Just another time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Nice. Well, I'm definitely glad that we're going to get that worked out. And yeah, everybody have a great rest of your day, night, wherever you're located. And we will see you next week.